So hello everyone, good evening. My name is Niharika Ghadge and I'll be your host for the evening. I welcome you all to YLCC's Legal-A-Thon series and I appreciate you all for being here, especially on a Saturday evening. Today we have with us Mr. Deepak Kumar Thakur sir. Deepak sir is a partner at LNL Partners and he is here to guide us on careers as projects, energy and infrastructure lawyer. Welcome Deepak sir and thank you so much for joining. If time permits, we shall have the audience's questions at the end of the session. So I request the audience to pin down whatever questions they have in the chat box. Before we begin with the session, so would you have anything to convey to the audience?
I will convey a very, very happy Dhanteras to everybody and hope all of you are enjoying and best of in your health.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. So, sir,
Sure.
What is the scope of career in projects, energy and infrastructure laws in India? And what is the key skills that are most valued in this field? So could you please elaborate on the area of expertise for the better understanding of our audience, please?
In that case, so I will just start. I think what you had asked for is the career in project practice. The career in project practice is a very interesting practice, and in fact, it's not one of the most chosen one, not one of the best liked one by the general category of students who are interested in joining law firms. And it is primarily because of the lack of awareness. And I'm glad that you all chose this practice as one of the mentorship session for your mentoring purposes. The lack of awareness about this practice area leads to lack of, obviously lack of development of interest amongst the students. And that's why they are not even interested in joining the practices. From the career perspective, project practice has a vast opportunity for everybody. However, it has its own challenges because what happens is in this practice area, you will have to know, unlike other practice areas, you will have to know each and every major law, which starts from Constitution, which goes on to the Contract Act, which goes on to Sales of Goods Act, which goes on to the land laws of the Government of India, which goes on the land laws of state governments, which goes on to each and every aspect pertaining to which a particular project relates to. Now, project, when we mention, the project can relate to either the airport sector, port sector, road sector, power sectors, urban infrastructure. So depending upon whichever sector you touch upon, you will have to know about the law of that sector. And accordingly, what happens is, due to this reason, your duty towards your client increases a lot, because obviously you will have to know about that law before advising on that particular project. And that is why what happens is, since you have to work little more hard than in comparison to your other peers in practice areas, people tend to not show that much of interest in this sector, in this practice area. But I can tell you it is a very interesting area. It is definitely one of the challenging areas, practice areas. And that is why one must always choose the challenging path, not an easier path that comes in other sector. Obviously, no other sector is easier, but comparative basis only, it is slightly difficult, this path.
Right. All right. Thank you so much. So though the demand and awareness for these fields are now increasing amongst the new generation, so what made you perceive a career that was not so usual and conventional in earlier days? And how did you plan to specialize in this domain of law?
Sure. So like most of the students, I was also not very much aware when I decided or I joined this practice area. I would say it is more by an accident, by trial method, or more by accident, I would say, not by any other thing, that I happened to join this practice area. When I started interning, I was taken by the projects team. And when I was given assignments for this, obviously various other projects, then my deliverable made them to, absorb me in that practice team. And then accidentally, I happened to join that practice team. And definitely, since the practice area involved a lot of in-depth knowledge of the subject matter, I definitely prefer to have this practice area and continue to practice in this practice area rather than going to explore other practice areas. And definitely it was unconventional. So choosing an unconventional path was my choice at that point of time. And I am glad that I chose that path.
Right, that's so good to know, sir. So we are all curious to know as to what kind of clients you come across in this field. Like, are these majorly Indian clients, or does this attract foreign clients as well? Also, if you could please share with us one of your best experiences with respect to any unique legal challenge you worked upon in the recent times.
Sure. So okay. So clientele wise, see what happens is the practice involves all sort of clients, Indian and foreign clients, and foreign clients involve mostly when they come up for investments in India, either as in whichever sector you look at. I'm not going to in terms of specific sectors, and sectors. What happens is, as I was mentioning, it is unconventional because since you have to be aware about all the laws, you have to also see that particular sector attracts any FDI restrictions, whether there are any FEMA regulations which is attracted there at the time of investment or any foreign player coming in. So that is also one of the subject matter that you have to be aware of, apart from the Indian all other Indian laws, basic laws. So in terms of clientele, I have both Indian clientele, foreign clientele. Uh, Sometimes depending upon the sector which is most active in a particular season, because most of the practices are seasonal. Most of the practices are seasonal in terms of sectoral practices. Sometimes it is power sector which is most active, then sometimes it is port sector which is most active, then sometimes it is airport sector which is most active. So it all depends on which sector you are looking at. And that is why, depending upon which sector you are looking at, the clientele also varies from sector to sector. If you're looking at power sector, lot of foreign clientele are interested in investment because obviously it is a booming sector for the current time being. If you look in the airport sector, it is primarily the Indian clientele which is active. Foreign clientele are there, but they are not. They are more in terms of investment rather than the implementation part. If you look in the port sector again, it is your Indian clientele which is more active. You look into the road sector, it is mixed crowd, Indian as well as the foreign clientele. So depending upon which sector you are looking at, it is then the clientele obviously varies. I deal mostly as in with the Indian clientele because projects are implemented by the Indian entities only ultimately. So my interaction more often than not happens with Indian clientele. But since investments are also looked down from the foreign clientele, so yes, have interaction with the foreign clientele also at times. If I have to put it in terms of percentage, foreign clientele interaction is not more than 20-25% in a overall perspective. Interesting incident. Yes. There are quite a few. I'm just thinking which one to mention from the legal perspective. You want to? I'm not sure whether you want to hear about. Okay.
So it could be whichever that comes to your mind first. It could be a recent one. It could be it can be anyone which you think about right now.
No, I'm just curious to know what kind of experience you want to understand, because obviously I have dealt with so many things, so it is difficult for me to single out any incident. So which kind of experience you would like to hear, or as in would you like me to share?
Right. So just now you mentioned that you prefer to deal with the Indian clientele. So if you could remember vividly about some incident in that perspective.
So clients, see, whether it is Indian clientele or foreign clientele, they are always challenging to deal with. So because obviously the reason is they would expect you to like come back within a day's time. They will take their own sweet time to come back. and then they will expect you to revert within a day's time. So for example, if I tell you, one of the clientele as of last week, they told me that okay, they are going to provide their comments on a particular document, uh, as in by today. And literally by today they had mentioned, and like 3-4 calls we had during last 4-5 days, and then they mentioned no, by today we'll share. Thereafter, they took almost 10 days time to come back with their comments. And this was the incident as of last Friday. Then they shared their comments on Friday evening, which is very typical in law firm life, that typically your clients will end up sharing their comments or observation or any deliverable by evening only. And then they will expect you to be ready with all the product by next morning or latest by Monday morning. And so if you are expecting holidays or any me time, then forget about it in law firm life. So then Monday morning they start chasing, no, where is the comment? It has been 2 days that we are shared document and we have provided our comments. So this kind of incidents will keep happening in your profession, and it is not specific to my practice area. This is very generic to all the practice areas in a law firm life. And specific incident in terms of practice area wise, I would say yes, one of the most interesting practice area I can tell you on the incidents. It's about the lack of awareness about law, which is very, very important in this practice area. You can't be practicing in this practice area if you do not have the knowledge about law, and if you think that okay, I am so in my knowledge terms about all the practice area and that can take care of my needs, then please forget about pursuing this practice area, because what is highly required is you need to have the knowledge, not but good practice area. So the incident that I was going to share with you is that on the project, I won't, you can say one of the project that is implemented, or the project which can be, which is regulated by central government. So that project was, tender documents was issued by a state government, and I was advising the private clients. And then I asked in my pre-bid queries that, okay, please tell me, show me on what basis you have issued these tender documents, as in the tenability of those tender documents. And take my words, that entire bid was foregone. So, so that is one of the most interesting, because you need to know the law, and the lawyers had only advised the state government while issuing the tender documents. I am not naming the competing law firm, obviously, because obviously of the professional reasons.
Right.
But this is what happens when you don't know law. You just end up doing something for the sake of it, and then you just end up copying, pasting, and you don't realize the importance of law. This is what happens. It ended up making state governments time and effort and money wasted, which you can't
Right.
afford to do that.
Right.
And
Right. So now we know what all.
and obviously
So
it
please.
was a very, very big loss of pace for them. Yeah, please.
Right. So now we know what all intricacies are involved and how important it is to think on your feet and mold according to the client and be aware all the time.
Yes.
So
Yes.
moving on to the next question. So for students attending this session, apart from drafting and negotiation skills, what other key skill set must one acquire to build a career in this domain of law? And for freshers willing to pursue a career in projects and energy sector, what would be your key suggestions with respect to where should they begin their preparation from?
See, preparation, definitely. So I can only advise two things. First is read law. If you think that reading of law will not help and these are all bookish knowledge and practical knowledge comes only while working, yes, that can be true to a certain extent. But knowing law and applying law while practicing is most important thing. So if you think that no, reading law will not help and only interning will help or only practicing will help, then please forget about it. Reading law and knowledge about law is extremely important, and more particularly, more than the bare acts, it is about the developing law, which happens now unfortunately in India on daily basis is through reading of case laws. Read case laws. It is very, very important. Pick up any area or any sector of your liking, whether it is airports, power, roads, sports, whichever sector you like. Pick up one, two sectors, and then you please read case laws. You will find case laws in that sector every day, and if not every day, you can't find time every day. Pick up in a week's time. That okay, read about the development in the sector that has happened over last 1 week, 10 days, and follow the sector on every day basis. That is one of the biggest session. Knowledge about law and following up about the development of law. And second is commitment. Success will not come easily. Success will not come in a day's time or overnight's time. It will come over a period of time, and it has its own challenges which will come.
Right. So applying and knowing the law and being updated about the recent developments is of utmost importance. And the interning and working around it is just a supplementary aspect, and obviously commitment to get it all forward.
That is correct.
Right. So I remember you handling the procurement and construction arbitration related matters as well in the past. So what other areas of law does the project overlap with?
So in bigger law firms, what happens is this projects practice get supplemented with your M&A practice, because what happens is in M&A practice, when you are doing any M&A transaction, then you have to do the due diligence of the project company, how the project was implemented, whether it has obtained all the approvals, whether the contracts are in proper nature, whether and what are the interconnected risk with the project documents and the transaction documents, and then you have to highlight those things in the transaction documents. And so one of the practice area is your M&A. The second practice area that it gets supplemented to is your project financing. And financing thing, it is similarly you have to highlight the risk, and those risks have to be taken care of in your financing documents when you're drafting and finalizing. So apart from construction as in dispute resolution, it gets supplemented with M&A practice and the project finance practice. So this practice is again becomes very critical for those practice areas as well.
Right. So, sir, how can one build their knowledge and skills for the project sector, especially if they are willing to switch from another sector as a lateral hire?
It is all upon your interest, and as I mentioned, the two things that you have to be aware of is building up your skill set. Skill set, how will you build? If you have to build up your skill set can be built up on two bases. Number one, while working. Number two, about being reading and being updated about the sector. So obviously, if you're working in the other sector, then you obviously can't work. Then that goes with the assumption that you are not working in this sector. So working part will not come. Then it is only about being updated, reading, and aware about the law and the developments that is happening in the sector. So that is one of the biggest thing that you have to do. And the second thing, obviously, is your interest. You just because you think about a particular subject or a practice area, and thinking of switching over in that practice area without knowing about the intricacies involved. And intricacies, when I say it, intricacies means there are a lot of challenges because of the client demands, because of the commitment, because of the time that it takes. It's huge. Your typical M&A transaction finishes in maximum a month's time or 2 months time, while a project transaction does not finish in a month's time or 2 months time. It takes its own time. At times it is the minimum time that you see a project guy is or project team is working on any assignment is 6 months, and it ends up being up to 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. You see a person working continuously on that project. Now, whether that interests you, whether you would be interested in working on the same project for all throughout for years, is something that you have to decide. Is a matter of choice. So that is why you will have to first of all decide whether you want to and you would be willing to continue in these kind of practice areas. Growth, as I mentioned, is not as fast or paced as you would see in your M&A practice area. Obviously, for various other reasons which you see in the law firm life, that it is not that money minting practice area like your M&A practice. So obviously those are other things that you have to be considerate of while choosing or while considering to shift in this practice area.
Right. So growth is not as paced. So it is very important to keep tight and be consistent and make sure that your interest is still intact if you want to persist in this area. All
Correct,
right.
correct. And
So,
if you are thinking of any fast-paced growth and you want to become like overnight super 30 lawyer or super 40 lawyer, then consider this not to be a preferred practice area of yours.
right, right. So, sir, what are the common mistakes committed by law students during their internships? And how, according to you, can they perform better to increase their chances of securing a pre-placement offer?
So one of the most common mistakes that I have seen people or students making is they are always confused between projects and project financing. They don't know the difference between the projects area and the project financing area, practice area. They commonly mistake between the two practice areas as being one of the practice areas. And trust me, whomsoever people I have had in my team, at least till couple of years back, all of them, without any exception, had this confusion, or I would say committed this mistake of having considering these two practice areas as one practice area. Another common mistake is that they try to compare this practice area with M&A practice area again, as in the kind of work that they try to compare, which is not the same. The practice area in M&A is totally different, and the practice area of project finance is totally different from what we practice. It is about development of a project, and every project development has its own life, and obviously it has its own life depends on the which sector you are looking at. Some projects are developed over a period of 2 months, some projects are developed over a period of years. So it all depends on which project and sector you are looking at. So that is the biggest confusion or the biggest mistake that a law student does. Second is with respect to lack of awareness about law and the recent developments. I have seen people coming in, law students coming in, I will do this, I'll do that. And then when I ask them a single question that, okay, how many times you read law? Then there is no answer. Baba, why would you say that, okay, I will do this and I will do that? Why haven't you been doing this already? If you are so committed, if you think that you are so self-motivated and you just for the sake of getting PPO, just for the sake of saying something, please don't say those things. But show that you have been doing all that throughout. So, and if you would have been doing that all throughout, you will always be aware about that practice area or that particular aspect which you are speaking for. So these are the two
Right.
common things. These are the two common things that I would say I have seen more often than not. Every student committing the mistake.
Right. So firstly, the confusion and comparison with M&A team. So it is
And the project
important for the
financing.
interns to, sorry?
And the project finance.
Right, right. So it is important for the interns to do their homework first before applying. And secondly, they have to know the core law and also about the recent developments happening in that field. And obviously, their actions will speak louder than words if they actually know it and mean everything that they have written in their applications.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So, sir, could you please describe your role as a partner at one of the most prestigious law firms in India and what your day-to-day responsibilities are? And with great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man has like fantasized this dialogue so much. So, how much truth does this statement hold in present-day circumstances, especially from the perspective of a tier-one law firm partner?
So first of all, I would like to, as in, rule out this differentiation for tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 law firm. What becomes important as a professional is that you be diligent, be responsible. These are the two basic, I would say, characteristics so that one has to develop and one has to have. And it is totally irrelevant and pointless to say that whether you belong to tier 1 firm or tier 2 firm or tier 3 firm or tier 4 firm. If you are responsible, you are professional, trust me, growth will come on its own way. And growth is not measured in terms of your whether you are in a tier 1 firm or tier 2 firm or tier 4 firm for that matter. Growth is measured in your own satisfaction level. If you are happy with your work, then that is it. It is totally irrelevant that which place you are at. It has to satisfy you. It has to satisfy your work, has to satisfy your clients. So you have to ensure that whatever you are doing, it is right and it is meeting all the expectations of your clientele. So that is I would say the biggest differentiation that one would have in their mind. No, I am in tier 1 firm or tier 4 firm, and I have that superiority complex just because I am in tier 1 firm, or I have the inferiority complex because I am in tier 4 firm. Please remove that from your mind. It has nothing to do with tiers of the firm. What differentiates the tier of the firm is only your pay package. So again, I have not been running around that. I have been to both tier 1 firm. I started with tier 1 firm. Went to tier 2 firm. Again, I'm in tier 1 firm. So it really does not matter. Money will come to you. Money will not go away anywhere. Money will come to you. It's a matter of time. And you have to be patient. And life is not that short that you have to earn everything on day one. Money will come to you. So that is on the first part. Second part, what comes is in day-to-day life, and how responsible you are, how much responsible you are as a being partner, and gate power brings great responsibility. Definitely, I would say as an intern also you must follow that. As an intern you have a great responsibility towards your peers, towards your seniors, towards your mentors. If you are doing something with great responsibility and with total commitment, you have to always ensure that you deliver the right product, you do the right research, you do the right homework before uttering even a single word, before putting even a single word on the paper. You cannot be sly in your output. You have to do your all homework before uttering even a single word. Likewise, same thing I keep telling my team also all the time. And even yesterday also, I was taken aback with various things that my team had done, and that you just cannot be in a kind of employee relationship. This profession is not employer-employee relationship. You have to think like a professional, whether you are intern, you are associate, you are senior associate, or you are partner. So these things comes right from your early days only. Start feeling like professional. You are an entrepreneur from day one. You don't become partner on and then only you become entrepreneur. You become entrepreneur the day you choose to become a lawyer. Okay, so from that perspective, I'll just say how my day goes like. Typically, my first thing that I check every day is about the latest developments that have taken yesterday, in terms of the legal development, in terms of what all critical judgments or the observations that have been passed by any court in India. And today's the time has obviously become very easy with live law and law today, this and that, bar and bench. So many sites have come up, which gives you easy access to the recent developments. But again, it all depends, because whether you want to follow them or you don't want to follow them blindly. Because what happens is they, like any other of media, they are also media agency only. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they will present things from their perspective, from their understanding, and from the subject of their liking. So it all depends on your liking, whether you would like to follow them or you would like to follow any other particular subject. So if you want to follow any other particular subject, trust me, live law does not give me enough substance of my practice area or the
Right.
updates from my practice area. So do I follow them blindly? No, I don't follow them blindly. I definitely take care, as in read them, I see them, but then I do my own research. So that is the first and the foremost thing that I do when I start my day. Second thing that I do is see the status of my deliverables that has been pending for yesterday and what has gone out, what is pending, and decide on the deliverables for the day. Obviously, then seeing how the team has performed, what is lacking, what is not lacking, and then obviously give, as a part of team meeting, you give feedback to your client as in team members on real time basis. My feedback, at least what I follow is in my practice area, in my team, is that I give feedback on real time basis, on everyday basis. I don't hold on to it only for the end that, okay, once your performance reviews comes in at the end of the year, then only I'll review your performance and then only I'll give you feedback. That is one of the most negative thing that I see followed in some of the teams. I don't do that, and I don't even encourage that kind of practice. I would always encourage that whoever is working with you as either as a team member or as an intern, you give them feedback on real time basis. Because at that time only, if you don't give them feedback on the real time basis, they will not understand their mistakes. They will not improvise upon. So it is very important to give feedback on the real time basis. Third thing is then you follow up with the clients and figure out, okay, whether they have been satisfied with your work, they have been, and there are any areas of improvement, or there are any other thing that they are looking after them, as in looking after from us, and if we have provided them sufficient or the complete deliverable to their satisfaction. And then obviously then day goes on, then you as in complete your work and review whatever is there. So these are then obviously interaction with your peers is again one of the important things that you must do. Interaction is very important, and that helps in your personality development as well. So this is how a typical day goes on, and which, as honestly, I don't see any difference between how a person joining on day one should be differentiated from a partner level. Obviously, the responsibilities at partner level increases manifold, because you are responsible not only for your teamwork but your clientele as well. At starting level, generally people feel that you are responsible only for your work and you are not responsible to your clientele, which should not be the case. And as a responsible professional, I would always suggest and advise that you should feel responsible towards your client from day one only. And you should not be thinking that just because your work is going to be reviewed by somebody, you will be sly in your work and you will not do your work, you will not give your 100%. So that shouldn't be the case.
All right. So just to summarize, being diligent and responsible are the most important characteristics we should look forward to incorporating in ourselves. And growth will follow. Growth follows diligence and self-satisfaction. And then where you come from doesn't actually matter. And as an intern, there's a lot of responsibility towards your peers and also to the authorities to provide accurate results after thorough research, instead of and going beyond the employer-employee relationship, and being a professional first by doing your own research instead of being dependent on any other sources. And also thank you for the entire day going us through the entire day of yours, sir. So
Sure.
with the increasing trend of the young lawyers quitting law firms within 3 to 5 years of their career, what could be that one driving factor to inspire someone to stick with law firms for so long?
See, what happens is people, which is a trend in the present times, in fact, which we all have been observing, that what attracts a student towards law firm is your pay packages, and which I find a very, very wrong phenomena for being attracted to join a law firm. Joining law firm should be only on the basis of sole criteria of your preference for a particular practice or a particular subject field. It should never be basis your just because the firm is paying more money than other, and you will join that firm. So what happens is, obviously, nobody pays you for free. If you are being paid, you will be expected to be delivering also. and delivering happens, then there is a lot of pressure on you, and you are supposed to be then working all throughout, and no money comes easy. No money comes easy, and that's why there are burnouts. Then burnouts happens, and then you leave the firm, you quit the profession, and then you decide to go for different alternatives. And this is the biggest reason that people switch on immediately after 2-3 years and then choose alternate career path. So it is very important from day one. That is why that you decide your priorities. What is your priorities in your life? Whether it is money, or it is your love for law, or it is your law firm life, or what is it? Once you have decided your priority, then you can only stick around. If you are just trying and doing a hit and trial method, then obviously it will not work for you. Then you will keep trying all throughout. No, it does not mean for even a second that trying is not a good thing, but then I think it is up to an individual. What is preferable for that person? What is preferable for that person? Whether in terms of he or she wants to try for 2 years every other alternative, and if he or she is happy, please, so be it, and you must do that. But if you want to stick around and be guided by somebody, then I would suggest that decide your priorities. What is your priority? Whether it is money, or it is life, or it is family, or it is balance. Trust me, there is no balance of life in any profession, and it is just a misnomer. And every profession has its own challenges, has its own pros, has its own cons. So it all comes with your priority in life.
Right. So it is important to ask and answer the questions for ourselves and then decide our priorities, and that will definitely get us to the answers which we seek. So,
That
sir,
is correct.
talking about the extensive work hours and the load at law firms, you must also regularly or occasionally encounter situations where there is a lot of workload and there's a lot of stress. So, how do you manage and cope up with that situation?
There is no coping up. You have to deliver. There is no alternative only. And I can tell you, I can rather share with you many instances where I have almost ended up working till the time of like at the time of my marriage. I almost ended up working before I went for my marriage, before my kid got delivered, when even at the time my kid got delivered. So at that time I was also working. So even at partner level, trust me. So it is not an easy question to answer. Only thing that comes up with is it is your choice, and it was my choice. Obviously no one can force you. It was my choice, and I feel responsible towards my client. I feel responsible towards my deliverables that I have chosen, and that is why I continued working even at those times. No one can force you, no one can push you. Obviously, if it would have been employer-employee relationship, then one could have taken easy path and all those times and said, no, I can work only for 8 hours, I can work only for 10 hours, and I'll take Saturday, Sunday off, and I'll not work on holidays, this and that. I'll not work during my wedding time, this time or that time, or me time. It all matters, as in it all depends on you. So what do you think of yourself, whether you feel responsible enough to as in leave and go with your personal life, or whether you feel responsible uh, towards your clientele, towards your work. It all depends there. And when if you'll ask me whether I feel proud in saying this, no, I don't. That is not the life that I had ever preferred to live life. But unfortunately, since I am in this life, I do not have any alternative to go to choose for. If I am here, which is my choice of being here, I have to live this life and I have to continue delivering.
Right. So it's a wonderful thing you said about standing by the choices which you have made for yourselves.
Correct. So
So,
you have
sir,
to stand by your choice. That is what I'm saying. You have to decide your priority. So if I have
right,
decided my priorities, I cannot run away from it.
right. All right, sir. So, could you please describe about leadership style and what suggestions would you provide to the law students and graduates regarding the leadership skills and its importance?
See, in law firm life, what happens is in leadership, I would say leadership comes at various levels. If you're dealing with as a fresher, so typical interaction in a typical law firm, I would say, between a partner and a fresher is extremely rare. It is not that too much, and it is limited to very few instances, very few days, or possibly a day in month. So if you see at that level, talking about myself, I don't believe in that kind of philosophy, and I believe in following that practice all throughout, as an interaction with the team members all throughout. Whether you are a fresher, whether you are at A5 level or senior state or whatever level, interaction has to happen on everyday basis. Then only you can, as in learn. Then only you can grow. And just because you are a partner and you think that you know everything, no, again, that thinking is wrong. Because as a partner, I can learn a lot of things from pressure also. So that is why interaction is very important thing. And so interaction, as a leader, you have to ensure that you give comfort to your team and you interact with your team. Second is mentoring and giving feedback on real-time basis. That has to also happen on everyday basis. You just cannot say that, no, I will hold on to it for a particular day in a week, for a particular day in a month, or for a particular time when the assessments are happening for promotion or for increments and all. You cannot hold on to that time. Because what will happen is, if you will not give real-time feedback, then both as a team member and as a leader, both of you will suffer. So that is not something that I would ever appreciate, and I practice that, and I would advise that it has to be followed by every team leader. Third thing as a leadership comes in is give confidence to your team. And when you talk about confidence, it brings in as in motivate them all the time. Keep motivating them all the time. Take your team out for evenings out, for your lunch out, or whatever you feel comfortable. Or social interaction is very important. So that social interaction and motivation comes together. So I think these are the few things which I see from a leader and your team perspective.
Right. So social interaction and motivation to your team members and guiding them throughout.
Yeah.
All right. So, sir, any final advice for the audience members?
Yes, definitely. And the final advice is only decide your priorities, make your right decision. Don't choose the practice area just for the heck of it, or just because you like something about that practice area. Think about the long-term goal, whether you can, because your life depends on that, whether you want to continue as in that practice area throughout or not. Decide on that aspect, and then only come on in this practice area.
So no getting deviated and sticking by the choices which we have made for ourselves.
Yes. Running away is a very easy choice that one can make. And that is not something that I ever appreciate or advise on.
Right. All right. So thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. I believe we all have picked up so many insights from this session, and I believe the audience members also must have definitely enjoyed, mostly making notes, since so many insights we had. Everything was worth taking notes for, and we also delved into many important topics. So with that, we come to the end of this session. Thank you so much, sir, for joining, and thank you so much for your time, every one of you, especially on a Saturday evening, like I reiterated. So thank you all for joining. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you, and wish you all a very happy Diwali in advance.
Happy Diwali, everyone.
Thank you.